Okay, today we're going to be hopefully adding in some collision detection for our taxi class and our egg class. So at the end of today, I'm hoping that when that taxi passed the egg would move to the graveyard, the taxi would move to the graveyard. This wouldn't hatch because the egg would be gone. That wouldn't happen because we don't have more than... Okay. But yeah. Upon a collision, taxi needs to remove itself and the egg, and then a higher upgraded tier of our vulture needs to appear. So hopefully we can start to figure that out. So I'm thinking the first thing we might do is to, just like this, we already did it, is to ask what tier it's at, and then to initialize the atlas to be the corresponding atlas, right? Okay. Because we'll need to eventually put in all of the AI into the tier system as well. But for right now, the tier system just changes the self-atlas, which should render us a different tier vulture if we collide. Now, the thing is, we're going to be testing with this tester taxi. So this is a taxi that is not in our global taxis table, which is the reason why it's flipping out as soon as we spawn another one, I'm pretty sure, because actually I don't know exactly sure why it's doing that, but that's my hunch, is that it's because we're overriding when the egg hatches, we're making another taxi in the taxi 1 index, and then I think it's just getting screwed up there because we have more than one taxi and we're rendering it based on the tester. So the first step is to write our collision detection function for our taxi class. And then once we write that function, we need to give it a little bit of a buffer, and then we need to check in our playstate update loop, hey, does any of our taxis, but for right now, since it's just the taxi index, like we're coding it just for this tester taxi so we can see if we get the right things happening, and then we'll apply it to the global taxi table, and then we'll get rid of our tester eventually. But for right now, we'll just do it to our tester. Then we need to, I guess let's just get started. In our taxi, we need a overall collision function. So if we give ourselves a function and we call it, run it on its object, and it'll be called collides. Nope. Collides. We have left collides, right collides, and then we have just collides. And it'll take in a collidable. Now, with the AABB collision, we're going to say if our x is smaller than collidable x plus its width, and the right side of us would have to be greater than the leftmost side of our collidable. Then we can say our y's, if the top of us is smaller than the bottom of them, and the bottom of us would be greater than the topmost part of our collidable. then that's when we would return true. Otherwise, return false. So there's our general AABB collision detection function for our taxi class, but we want to add that little bit of buffer because probably a little bit of buffer on all sides because if you imagine the taxi class, when it goes to collide with an egg, say the egg's this big, if the egg's right here, it would technically be a collision with that true AABB collision, but we want to add a little bit of a buffer so that it doesn't trigger until it's closer, like this maybe. The good news is the taxi class doesn't move slower than whatever its minimum dx is, so that shouldn't be so apparent, but I do think we should add a little bit of a buffer there. So the question is, do we add that buffer, or how do we add that buffer? Our left side would have to be smaller than the right side minus the buffer. And the left side would have to be greater than that plus the buffer. And I think our buffer is just 2. Is that right? If we check our constants, let's see our constants. Buffer is 6. That might be a bit much. Let's see what it looks like. So, play state. No. It was our vulture class. We were writing our buffer. Plus buffer, then. Wait, no, not vulture. It's in our taxi class. Jeez. Okay, then if the y is greater than... I'm going to leave the y as untouched because I think that's fine. The egg's not going to be above the taxi, and then if it collides bottom, that's totally fine. The top of us is smaller than, and the bottom of us is greater than collidable y. I'll just add the buffer here on this one. Let's see. Shoot. Okay. So now what we need to do to test if this is working is to do logic to remove them. And I'll just use that doing the graveyard field. Both of our objects, but so if our taxi 1, now where is our tester egg? What is our tester egg? Where is that tester egg? There. Okay, so this is a little different than I was thinking. I should have given myself... Yeah. I'm gonna, instead of doing this, instead of giving my... I don't want to overwrite the global tables, just like how I don't have my taxi in a global table. It's just an object here. So what I will do... Oh god. I just gotta find what I just deleted. There. I'm gonna take these two things, put them up here in our knit, and instead of it being in the eggs global table, I'm gonna have the tester egg, so test egg 1, and then I'm gonna initialize test egg 1 as an egg object, and then I'm gonna overwrite its graveyard field to be false, so that it can be updated. Let's just make sure. Then we gotta update, then we got to render. So, oh shoot. Okay, I'm realizing why we did that. We kept it as an eggs 1 because the egg has a bunch of logic we need, like bottom platform collision detection, so it can bounce and all of that good stuff. So actually I was probably onto something here. Sometimes I just forget why I do things. Anyways, so we'll just do that eggs 1 then with our tester taxi. Taxi 44, crazy typo. Safe. Okay. We haven't done anything yet. I've just seen if it crashes right away. Okay. So we're going to play state. We're gonna go. We need to, let's see, our egg's getting updated, our taxi is getting updated. We need to run our function. If we take a look at our function, it is this taxi collides takes in a collidable. So we need to check in our update of our play state. Oh, God. Play state here. So we need to say somewhere, I guess might as well be at the very end, right? Because we're going to be deleting it anyway. Oh, look. We update taxi. Or actually, it's right here. So we're going to say, hey, by the way, let's check on our taxi 1 object if it collides with a collidable. And we'll actually do this before we do this update. Oopsie. Yeah, we'll do this before all these updates. So we'll say, hey, take our taxi 1 object, which is what it was, right? Taxi 1, yep. Take our taxi 1 object. Oh, God. Here. See if it collides with eggs 1. Now, if it collides with eggs 1, then we want to do a couple things. The first things we're just going to do is delete both of us. So our taxi 1 will become .graveyard gets true. And if you take a look at our taxi class, if our graveyard is true in our update here, if our graveyard is true, we get the graveyard values right here. So it should have the, it doesn't really disappear it. It'll take it off the screen, but it's really putting it at -20 and -20, you know, off screen to the top left there. So we're going to say taxi 1 graveyard, but also eggs at index 1 that graveyard also gets true. So we'll be able to see if our function we just wrote is working appropriately by looking at a collision here. So it looks like our egg disappeared, but our taxi 1 did not. Yeah. I was thinking our taxi should have also disappeared there. A little confused why the taxi didn't disappear, because we did graveyard true it, right? Oh, look at this right here. We override it back to false here. So I think what we need to do is just not set it to false here, but just initialize it as false, which actually I think it does get initialized as false. Let's see, graveyard. Oh, gets true. So I guess we will have to override it. So we'll say taxi1, by the way, you're false. Then we took out where it overrode it with true. And we'll see if that's working now. Now they should both disappear. Perfect. And it looked like the buffer was just fine. Maybe, yeah, maybe a little, maybe half the amount of buffer we're giving it. So this will be 3 instead of 6 pixels. Which should make it a bit tighter of a collision. Yeah, that looked good. Cool. So what we'll have to do is not just check our tester taxi against our eggs1, but we need to check every instantiation of a taxi against its corresponding egg index. That's what we'll need for the final code, because right now we're just writing it based on the one tester. Okay. But we need to do something more than this. We need to spawn. We need to spawn, and actually by spawn I mean overwrite our vulture at the same index corresponding. We need to overwrite it with a new instantiation of a vulture, and the instantiation inherits the facing direction. It inherits the X and the Y of the egg. Yep. Shifted by 6 or whatever it is. Upwards. Let's take a look at our parameters for our vulture class here. We need an X, a Y, a width, a height. Then there's a platform spawn, which is a Y value of which to spawn at. Which, when they transform, they don't actually spawn. They don't go brrr and then fly, like every other vulture does. They just get at it. So we'll have to say that we're no longer spawning. So we'll have to set our appropriate facing value. We inherit the taxi facing value. So we can say something like if taxi1 dot facing right, then do one thing. You know, if we collide and our taxi's facing right, then our vulture will be, and our vulture gets initialized as facing right gets true, correct? No, facing right is false. So we can put vultures at the index 1 dot facing right is actually true if the taxi was facing right upon the collision, and then we need to put our X, a Y, and a width and a height, and those things are actually related to the egg. If we take a look at our vulture height, well, I guess we'd take a look at the instantiation of them. Our vulture, let's see here. Come on. Not seeing it. X, Y. Width and height. So 24 is the height of our standing vultures, which, depending on if the egg is collected in midair or not, would be, oh my god, yeah, shit. Well, I guess I'm looking for the height of an egg, which is 8. And then there's, it's a 16 by 16 in the air for the vulture. So in our play state here, when we're doing our vulture tables, oh my God. Here. So the X is going to be the exact same X of our eggs. 1 index in its X field. Its Y is going to be something similar. It's going to be the eggs at this 1, and we're hard coding this at 1 for the tester, but we need to do it for the corresponding index parameter when we cycle through and do it for every single instance, because every egg has its own taxi, and that taxi can only be collided with that given egg. So eggs 1x, same exact x, but the y is shifted by, if the egg is 8 tall and in the air the vulture is 16 tall, we want a -8 so that it'll be in the air, and in the air right where the egg was. And then our width is what, 16, and our height is 16, and we're actually in the air, which our grounded will become false because we initialize it at a in the air height, and then we shift it to be not grounded so that it doesn't get overwritten to be 24 again. Let's see. Oh, we also need it if taxi's facing left, which if we're facing left, we don't have to flip the direction of our new vulture, but we do need to upgrade. Yeah, we need to upgrade our vulture. So it's like we need to update the sprite. So our vulture's 1.tier field will now get itself plus 1 increase of the tier. That should change its sprite. I'm not convinced any of that code will work, but yeah. 517. Does our vulture not have a tier system? It does not. Yes, it does. Self-tier. Yeah. So it's saying attempt to perform arithmetic on a table value at 517. Yeah. We want to increase the tier, not the table. Let's see. So that's a taxi. It needs a platform spawn Y. See, I thought, oh yeah, we need to actually just say, when we instantiate this vulture, our vulture at that table index is actually dot spawning is actually false. So we're not needing that platform spawn Y, which we needed so that it could go and appear out of the ground when they spawn at the beginning of the maps or the waves. Fucker. Set random seed. Bad argument to set random seed on vulture. Vulture 273. It needs an index. So we'll just give it I feel like we need to factor this out. We should have done this a while ago, but I think what I'll do is give it these parameters and just manually put it. We'll say, so X, Y with height, then we need a platform Y and a index. So platform Y would actually be our eggs Y, or our eggs 1 dot Y minus the 8 pixels, and then the index would be just 1. And then that's the same code for this one. Now let's see. Okay. The vultures. We're updating our vultures. Are we rendering our vultures? We should be rendering our vultures. Okay. I don't know why it's disappearing. I guess we can try. Let's print out our vultures at index 1, X. Okay. Not getting assigned proper. Are we taking the vulture out of the graveyard? We normally do that upon instantiation, but we're just doing the testers and we are not taking them out of the graveyard. So as soon as we initialize it, we need to graveyard gets false. It's crazy thinking. You know, it's like all we want to do is disappear something and appear something, and we got to have these 8 lines of code to do just that. As soon as we initialize, we take our graveyard field and we turn it to false so that it can be updated. And then we'll see. Well, it did spawn a vulture. You know, it got rid of our stuff and then it spawned a vulture. Just at a weird ass location. I'm curious if we take out this tier update, if it does anything different. I don't get why things appear in that top right all the time. I really don't get that. Why is Y 0 there? Is there a Y 0? Yes. I don't know why it's doing that. Why would it put us up there and then not do anything? y is, if we're not in the graveyard, and if our y is smaller than 0, set our y to 0. Now, I'm wondering if this is, if we change this to 10 real quick, is this what's happening? Yes, it is what's happening. So something's going wrong. For some reason, our y is getting set to be smaller than 0, which our clamping behavior is placing it at the top there at y is 0. So now what's happening to make... Something's happening where our y is like getting really offset. Oh, I think I know. I think I know. We're moving the graveyard. We're moving the egg to the graveyard right away, and then we're deciding our vulture spawn based on the graveyard egg, not the last egg's egg. So if we collide, we're gonna spawn the vulture first, then we're gonna send the shit to the graveyard and erase those values. So now it shouldn't be stuck at the top there, hopefully. Motherfucking piss shit, fuck. Well, there you have it, folks. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll tell you what. We'll move those back, and then we'll actually use last x and last y, because if you look at our egg, we actually have a last x and last y that only gets updated when we're not in the graveyard. So instead of that, we'll put in last x, last y. How do you like them apples? Same with this. Let's try that. I'm just trying to not get that vulture in the top right corner. Come on. Booyah. We're not updating that vulture, but that's okay. We'll just, for right now, what I'm going to do is take off my debugging for this line, debugging for vulture 1, and we'll actually update. Are we not updating? Yeah, we're updating our vultures right here. I don't get why our new vulture wouldn't update. That's close, and it is the right color. It's just not moving. Is our spawning... Is our vulture... I'm curious if we don't set our spawning field, if it'll make it spawn out of the ground in a weird way. Yeah, well. Just a little confused why it's not moving. If we put back on our debug and we say our X, let's print out our vulture at tables 1X to see what's happening. Graveyard, graveyard, 19. I guess in a vulture, if we're not exploded, it's like, when are we updating our X position, right? Look, if we're not graveyard, oh, that's just the last X. Oh, Jesus. Where do we update here? If we're not in the graveyard, we update our X based on our DX. So I guess, is our DX getting set to anything here? It should be negative 0.7 by default. Let's see if our DX should be negative 0.7, but it's not moving. So why is it not moving? Are we in the graveyard? No, we wouldn't be in the graveyard. The graveyard should be true, 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 and then false. Yep. But why? Okay. I don't get why it's not updating. We update our vulture right here. Oh, we render it. Here, we update it right here. Vultures 1. We update it. So something's happening. What's happening? Maybe we put this after our update. Does that make a difference? Let me take a look at all the vulture fields, right? A grounded, a skid, a flapped, just stopped. Spawning and exploded. Just jumped. Graveyard. Doesn't seem like it would be messing up. I don't want to leave the session on a stump like this, you know? What's weird is like if I just take this, you know, I copy this code, I comment out all the code I've done, and I just say, hey, oh, no. Yeah, this is fucked up. Because this would kind of make sense why it would be stationary. And it's not. Oh my god. Well, that's even extra confusing. No, it's tethered to the egg's last Y. Oh. It's tethered to the egg's X and Y. And since the egg's last X and Y but the DX, it has a DX. And these are just the parameters that it gets initialized with, not the forever parameters. So what the fuck? That's even more confusing. Like, what if instead of this, instead of egg's last X, we just say, hey, 10. And instead of the Y, we say 10. Will that give us since we're facing left? A stationary vulture? It does. Why? Maybe because our platform spawn. If we take out platform spawn, doesn't like it. So I guess what do we do in eggs platform? No, what do we do in vulture platform spawn? What do we do with that? We set our parameter to be equal to a field called platform spawn y, and then we do a platform spawn y. If we're spawning, that's when we use that platform spawn y, but we're not spawning, we set it to false. That's what I don't get. We set it to false. We set the spawning to false. And if we set it not to false, we get a weird ass frame of a vulture that also doesn't update. Oy, what's the fuck? What's happening, guys? Only thing that would make sense is if this graveyard is getting fucked up. But I thought we already checked this. Graveyard should be true, 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 and then we collide, then it's false. True, 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 collide, false. Yeah. So why is this not updating? Oh, lordy. Oh, give me a break. That's so jacked. What the fuck, dude? Why are we not updating? Why would we not be updating Vultures 1? If we manually update Vultures 1 and we say Vultures 1 update with delta time, doesn't update. Yet it has a DX, yet the DX should be modifying the X. Which is right here. For not graveyard, update our X. This line should be updating us because we're not graveyard and we have a DX of a negative number. So why is our X not being updated? It could be getting overwritten. I don't know with what though. Oh God, this shouldn't be this tough. I'm stumped, y'all. So look, we print up our dx, which is a negative number. And our x should be modified by our dx. So since dx is negative, we should be moving, but we're not moving. I don't know what's going on, guys. We're overriding our vulture table. Like I'm kind of thinking. Oh, look, our play state gets populated with vultures. It's so hard to navigate this code. We update all the vultures. We shouldn't need to do that. We update the vultures here. Now if our taxi collides with the next one, I'm gonna set the taxi to the graveyard, eggs to the graveyard. Now what if we just take that out now? Should spawn a vulture. Okay. It's moving at least. It's moving. So why would a taxi being, well, here, let's see. We just send the taxi to the graveyard. Do we still get movement on the hunter? We do. That's what it should look like. Just an egg should disappear. So I think we need to send the egg to the graveyard once we initialize our vulture at the correct Y position. Then we can send our egg to the graveyard and not get fucked up, maybe. Still freezes. Yeah, it freezes. I don't know why, because this, I don't know. Last thing we want to do is send the egg to the graveyard. Right. Come on, man. Come on. Why are you doing that? That's what we want. That's what we want. We just want that egg to be gone. Now, what if our... Because I'm wanting to say that this is what's fucking it up. That we put in eggs. Oh, no, yeah, that's right. Let me print up what the eggs... Because this is just initializing. This shouldn't have anything to do with updating it. Let's see. We print up eggs last X. Actually, we'll put eggs last Y. Okay. Now we where is looking for our update right here. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna leave this off for now. We're gonna see our last Y for our egg. So yeah, our Y. Okay, so our Y gets updated, but if we send it to the graveyard, it should stay whatever its last Y was. Which it does. But why would the vulture's Y be tethered to the last Y when this is just the initialization? I want to say if we put random numbers here like positive 10, it won't actually do anything because we're setting our spawning to false. We just need that parameter. Yeah. So that's not really fucking anything up. But this doesn't fix it. Why is it frozen? Why is it frozen? It doesn't make any sense to me. Fucking hell. Why? Why do we become frozen when we collect it, man? If we don't send the egg to the graveyard, we're fine. But the egg is still there. I don't get it. That's so jacked. You would think it'd be as simple as sending the egg to the goddamn graveyard. Look, if we're graveyard, change our X and Y. That doesn't make any sense why it wouldn't update. Why would making this graveyard true stop updating our vulture's X and Y position? Doesn't make any sense to me. And this is only happening once. Upon the collision, it's only initializing these values once. Then we update our vultures, at which point we should have a moving goddamn vulture. If we manually update a vulture's 1, and graveyard gets true upon a collision, it's still going to be frozen. Which doesn't make any sense to me. Yet if we move the graveyard, not to move the egg, don't move the egg to the graveyard, works perfect. That's exactly right. Fuck, dude. Doesn't make any sense to me. And the tricky thing is this is not even the code, the way the code has to be in order for it to work. I'm just trying to test it so that my idea would work, but I'm not getting it to work. Because it's going to be even more difficult than this, because we have to compare it based on the indexes. For whatever reason, when we egg graveyard it, our vulture doesn't move. That doesn't make any sense to me. We still have a DX. It's now getting updated. Why? We update vultures first. Like, what if we... Does that have any difference? We do vultures after eggs. Does that do any difference? I don't think it would. What the fuck, man? We're taking it out of the graveyard. Yeah, out of the graveyard. False. Why would eggs have anything to do with what a vulture is doing? What is this egg spawn? Oh, come on. You don't use it. You don't use it. What's so weird is like it's still an object, so I can kill it, but it's just not updating. So silly to me. By silly, I guess I mean stupid. Like, I don't know why that's doing that. Like, if we say vultures 1.dx gets a +5, it should move it. It should move it based on its dx because we're not in the graveyard. We set the right facing position, but it's not moving. Now, why would it be frozen like that, man? Why does it stop moving? Why does it stop moving? Why would it stop moving like that, dude? Doesn't make any sense to me. We don't have any functionality like that. If we're in the graveyard, we're not moving. But we're not in the graveyard. We're printing up whether or not we're in the graveyard. And we're not. Graveyard. True, we're in the graveyard, then we're no longer in the graveyard. So we should be able to handle values because we're not in the graveyard anymore. Now we're not spawning. For not graveyard, we get our X position updated. Just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna update our X position right here. Whether or not we're in the graveyard or not. We still don't move. Very last thing. What the fuck, dude? doesn't make any goddamn sense to me. What's so stupid is it works perfectly fine if we don't send the egg to the graveyard. That's exactly how it should work. Yet, when we move the egg to the graveyard, we stop all updating of our vulture, which doesn't make any sense to me. We gotta be doing something. Gotta be doing something to Vultures 1. Let me just turn this vulture off. It's the only thing I could think of that could be screwing it up. Come on, man. Disappear egg and keep moving, vulture. Come on. Fuck. I don't know, dude. I don't fucking know. It's driving me crazy. Well, sorry that was underwhelming. Just couldn't fucking figure it out. We gotta get back at it, try to figure it out, and then modify. What's sad is like this isn't even the right code. This is just the tester code, and it's fucking up. And then we'll have to go back and do the complicated code where we do every vulture with its specific collision upon its corresponding index egg, and then spawn a new vulture in that corresponding index also. So that's not even the final code, and it's busted, and we need to do it different. But it's just hard to test. So we'll figure it out. Catch you guys tomorrow. We'll see if we can't figure out what the heck's going on.